Hey everyone, my name is Kylie and this is Miss Kyle Reads, and today I'm going to be bringing you a book review for Sailing to Sarantium by Guy Gavriel Kay, book 1 in the Sarantine Mosaic. Now this book was published by Penguin Canada in 1999 and this paperback edition has 524 pages. This book is the first book in a duology, the Sarantine Mosaic, and it is based around the Byzantine Empire, so basically think ancient Rome. I am not a history buff by any means, but I know that all of Guy Gavriel Kay's books are more historical fiction that have a tiny bit of fantasy trickled in there. And I didn't think I was going to enjoy it, but I really enjoyed it. It's also based roughly on an Irish tale, I believe, about sailing to Byzantium. I don't know if that's right at all. So if you're into that, and if you're really into that time period, I think you would enjoy this. This book follows a main character named Crispin, who is an artisan working in a kind of far-off country from the capital city of Sarantium. And one day he mistakenly gets a summons to come to the city of Sarantium from the emperor. He's called upon to create a mosaic for the new temple that is being built in Sarantium, so it's a pretty big deal. Most of this story is about getting to Sarantium, just the journey to Sarantium, but once we're there, there is so much politics and so much scheming happening that I can't wait to see what's in the next book. But most of the story is journeying to Sarantium, because Crispin gets this summons too late to sail there, because most people would sail to Sarantium instead of going over land, but he gets the summons too late, so he has to go over land, and he has to kind of go through this land that's a little bit tribal with their magic kind of, and some interesting things happen to him. My main review of this book is that it is superb. I had absolutely no expectations going into this because I have never read anything by this author before, but my goodness, it was superb. We had such a new character in this book with Crispin. He is slightly older than your average main character, and he has suffered some losses. His wife and his 2 daughters have died from a plague, so he is dealing with that grief. And normally the grief that we see in main characters in a fantasy story are from a parent or something along those lines, but we just get to see a little bit different perspective because Crispin is that much older than the average main character. This is not a very plot-driven story, but it is interesting enough to keep you engrossed in it, and the writing keeps you engrossed in it. The way that mosaics and art is described in this book is so realistic. It makes me want to find out more about mosaics and about the type of art form that it is, and I just have never experienced anything like that where it makes me want to know more. It makes me want to study the Byzantine Empire. It makes me want to study mosaics. And that's pretty awesome. Now let's move on to characters. So we mainly follow Crispin in this book, but we also have several minor point of view characters. The first 60 pages of this book follow a secession, a pretty brutal secession, after the Emperor of Sarantium dies. Now, I was so confused because I thought maybe that was like the start of the story and Crispin was gonna come in at that point in the story, but no, this happens several years before Crispin even gets a summons to come to Sarantium. It's a whole emperor before Crispin comes to Sarantium, so I don't know what the purpose of that was. I'm sure that it's going to tie in the second book, but it does do a lot of world building so we can see what Sarantium's like. On to our main character, Caius Crispus, or Crispin as he is known by his friends. He is so quick thinking and witty, and he just says whatever he's thinking, and he is so capable, and I love having a main character that is capable. But he is also very genuine. Do you know who Crispin reminds me of? Kvothe. Kvothe from The Name of the Wind. It might just be the flaming red hair and his quick thinking, but my goodness, Crispin reminded me of Kvothe so much. He's got the wit, he's got the red hair, he's got his love for his art form. Just like Kvothe loves playing his lute, Crispin can't get enough of mosaics. I just love him so much because he is flawed, he is very quick to anger, and he does have this loss, but he is just such a great character. Next is a pretty minor point of view character, and that is Cassia. And she is a young girl who was sold into slavery by her mother because a lot of people had to do that where she comes from, and her mother thought she would survive. So Cassia is now working at this inn that Crispin happens to come upon one night, the night before the Day of the Dead, and Cassia thinks she is going to be sacrificed for the Day of the Dead, which is not good. What I loved so much about Cassia is that she is so much more than she seems. She is also a very capable character. We don't see that so much because she is so dependent upon the people who are around her because of her situation that she is in. I just have such high hopes for her in the next book because I really think she is a great character as well. We also have many conniving women that live in the city of Sarantium. Basically, the Empress. She is so great, and I can't wait to get more from them because I think we needed more from them. And oh my, the Emperor and the Empress, how they bantered back and forth, I can't get enough. Now on to the plot of this book. Like I said, this is not a very plot-driven story whatsoever. This has to do so much more with the characters and the politics that are going on, and oh my, I just loved it. But when exciting things happen in this book, they are told from minor points of view. Towards the end of this book, we get a pretty exciting chase and some death scenes, but we don't get it from the characters who are involved in that. We get it from a cook's apprentice who is stirring a pot of stew all night, and he sees them come in afterwards. And that is like such an interesting way to learn about some exciting scenes that are happening. After that, we went backwards in time a little bit for the main characters, but just to learn about those exciting things from a minor point of view character was just so interesting. I've never read anything like that before, but it happens several times in this book. It seems very straightforward because Crispin gets a summons, so he has to go to Sarantium. So he's got to travel to Sarantium, and then once he's there, he's got to build this mosaic. So it seems very straightforward, but there were still so many things that I didn't see coming, and they weren't really plot twists. I never thought the story would go in that direction, and he did. So it can still surprise you, even though it seems pretty straightforward. The writing. Like I have said before, I am not one that needs a beautiful lyrical writing, but the writing in this was just so great. It's what kept me invested in the story. Once again, I'm going to compare this to The Name of the Wind, because if you are missing Patrick Rothfuss's writing and you need something else like that, I would really suggest this. It's not flowery by any means. It just has a subtle way with his sentences and how the sentences flow together that I loved. The characters were so well written in this. They just felt so real, and I thought this was a real place. Even with the magic that was happening, I felt that it was real. Now onto the world building and the magical elements of this book. The world building in this was so great. Because Crispin is traveling across this country to Sarantium, we see a lot of the country and a lot of the history. The magic is so low-key in this. People do not have powers or anything, but it's just there, and we know it's there, and some people believe in it and some people don't, but it is there. It is very much present. Also, religion is a big aspect of this book. So if you like religion in your books, I think you will enjoy this because it does have a fairly large role to play in the discussions that people have, especially in Sarantium. There is a big discussion about this figure called Heloticos, about if he is immortal or if he is the son of the god, and people have issues with this and people have discussions about it, and it's one of the main discussions about religion in this book, and it was so interesting. A funny little tidbit, I loved the chariot races in this book. Think about ancient Rome. Think about the chariot races in ancient Rome. Oh my, there is one scene in here about a chariot race that I was literally on the edge of my bed reading this book because I couldn't wait to see what happened. So if you like those little tidbits, then I think you would really love that chariot scene as much as I did. Now on to my issues and problems with this book. The main issue I had with it was the first 60 pages. A lot of people will give a book 50 pages, and if you did that, you wouldn't read the best part of this book, which is the rest of the book besides the first 60 pages. Those 60 pages go a lot towards the world building of Sarantium, so we can see how gritty and brutal the succession is to the Emperor's position and how fragile that position is once the Emperor is there. My other big con for this is that it feels like half of a story. This is the first book in the duology, and you can really tell that because this did a lot of setting up and it didn't do a whole lot of finishing. I like books that feel like one complete story but that go in a series, and this didn't feel like that. This felt like half a story, but that's great because that makes me want to pick up the second book right away. So in conclusion, if you are wanting more Name of the Wind type characters and writing and the feeling that you get when reading The Name of the Wind, then I would suggest picking this up. It is not identical by any means. Kvothe is definitely a very different character than Crispin, but I could see some similarities, and the feeling that I had when reading this was so similar to the feeling that I had when reading The Name of the Wind. So if you're wanting something along that same line, then I would suggest this. It makes you want to pick up the second book right away, which is very awesome, but I just wish it was just one big story, one big thing. I would love it. I am so ready for the court intrigue and politics that's gonna happen in the second one, because just the ending of this book when we get to Sarantium, there are so many juicy things that are going to happen. Overall, I gave this a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I knocked it down that half star because it was half of a story, and I didn't like the first 60 pages, but the rest of it was fantastic. All right, everyone, give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and comment down below if you have read anything else by Guy Gavriel Kay, because I would love to see if the rest of his work is along this same line, because it was fantastic and I need to read the rest of his works right away. Give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed it and comment down below. Until next time, goodbye!